usually, though, I have to say, for the most part, a lot of like detectives, like in the police force, they usually do a fairly thorough job, and we are actually kind of hesitant with some of these with criminal investigations because you're upsetting an apple cart that that doesn't really help us in any way, but there's all the potential to hurt us.
Right.
Because we don't work with the police, but we let them know when we're around, and what kind of not exactly what we're doing, but like, hey, I'm here. And we've heard countless stories. It's never happened to us. We've always had a fairly decent relationship, especially with local law enforcement, to where there's never been any issues. But I've heard stories of other places where they burnt some bridges with law enforcement, and like they'll just take and park their car right behind you every time you go on surveillance, because they're like,
Lord.
oh yeah, you guys want to mess with us, all right? So you don't think we know how to do our job?
Good luck being clandestine with a fucking cop car.
Well, I mean, it's the South, and like it's the whole good old boy system, that's prevalent.
We can definitely unpack that ideology.
I mean, but it exists, and I mean, sometimes it's beneficial, for folks, and other times it's not.
Like most things, nuanced.
Yeah, everything's always nuanced, but I mean,
not in today's world, sir.
Yeah, but you know me, like I'm a huge skeptic about everything, and if there's one thing working as a private investigator has taught me, is to not let you have these storylines that you tell yourself as you go through a case, where you just like you just see the whole scenario in your head, and you're just like, okay, all right, I've got this woman all figured out. She's a meth addict, and this is what she's doing. This is everything that she's going to do is based off of these 2 or 3 pieces of evidence that I have against her. And so I have this whole story built up in my head, and I've learned that sometimes that'll take you down the wrong path, because you'll be so certain that that's the way that things are, and that's the way that you should pursue, and then it turns out that that's not even the case. Like, you were completely wrong, but you allowed yourself to become so certain of your ability to decipher information that you end up looking like an idiot on the other side of it. So I've got to where like I don't build up these narratives in my head,
especially with a meth head, because those motherfuckers are unpredictable.
Yeah, well, most people, truth be told, people are a lot more erratic than you would think.
You're preaching to the choir on that one. We live in 2020.
Yeah, well, I love hunting people. Like, I don't even... Well, like when I was younger, I hunted deer and stuff like that.
We'll have that in quotes. I love hunting people.
Well, but like when I was younger, you like to hunt deer, and like, deer, for the most part, you know what they're going to do. Like, it doesn't really take a rocket scientist, if you've grown up in the South, to kind of figure out what to do, to catch a deer. You either sit in one place in the woods till they come along, you put out some food, it'll go to it. You set up on a deer trail, something will pass through it. You get you a call, something will come to it. But like people, like there's just no telling what the fuck they woke up thinking they were going to do that day.
I always liked talk radio, but never had exposure to it. And like back in early 2000s, 105.9 was a conservative talk radio station. You had Glenn Beck and Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity and Michael Savage, and that's what I listened to all the time. So that was the only thing I was consuming.
Right.
So I was a very much, conservative radio Republican. And then when people, that's the only thing. It's really easy and comforting. You don't have to think. You just take other people's opinions as your own, and you move on. But then what broke it off for me was you have these people on radio screaming about liberty and individual freedom and all these American values, but 2 people who are the same sex can't get married.
Yeah.
And then it's you kind of think it's if you're all about individual liberty and freedom to do what you want the government out of everything, but you don't want the government in this thing because it goes against whatever your religious values are, that's what kind of unplugged me from that narrative. And then like you just kind of realize it's all bullshit and all posturing. It's all marketing trying to sell an opinion to make money.
The to your point, there was someone that had argued for that was pro DNC, right?
Yeah.
And they were stating that, well, the principles of like individual liberty and like being able to vote and everything, like being applied to everybody, like those are democratic principles. And I'm like, I 100% agree. However, there's an asterisk that was on that for the Democrats, and that was for white people. Like that was like what it was. Whenever you had the split pre-Civil War of the Democrat that allowed Abraham Lincoln to take the presidency, is you had a split between the Northern Democrats that believe with Western expansion that states' rights should decide slavery. Slavery is still cool, but states' rights should be able to decide whether or not they want it in the economic part of it, in the market itself in those states. And the Southern Democrats wanted it by default in Western expansion to incorporate slavery.
Weird thing to think that like 3 grandmas ago, like people could own people and it was okay.
Yeah, it's fucking maddening.
And then you got people that, even in my own family, that come up and try to like argue for the Confederate flags. Like, no, they're taking down our history. I'm like, do you want that? Is that history you want me? I mean, I'm just as like, I have a lot of Republican values and conservative values, but like, you got to think, is that the history you want to remember? You can remember the Confederate War and like have like statues and conversations about that, but it can't be Confederate generals.
Well, you shouldn't let those become icons for the notion of autonomy from the government. That's not what the Confederate flag represents, and that's a lot of times the argument that will try to be made. Yeah. The Confederate flag is literally a symbol that was crafted to showcase the right to have people as property, and the government not to infringe on that right.
No, Coy. It's about states' rights and economics. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds like an argument a loser makes, right?
I had a long text chain with my nephew because he put some stuff on his Instagram, and he's a brilliant kid, smart, loves debate, loves he's going to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
So, and it was hard to like get him to like. I was like, listen, you're in the age of the internet and cancel culture. Anything you put on your social media will be remembered.
Oh yeah.
And I said, you think that because it's on your story, it's going to go away? I said, it goes away. That's on a server somewhere that's got your name attached to it. I said, take that down. And then he try to get like about states' rights. I'm like, listen, it's states' rights to do. You know the argument. It's not. It wasn't about slavery. It was about X, Y, and Z. It's like states' rights to do what? Well, no, states' economic rights to do what?
Yeah.
It's like own people as property for economic gain.
Yeah.
That's what it was about.
Okay, so they got a guy on Fox News, and you know Fox News runs its reporters as personalities. It's not just the news at 6 and the news show at 7. It's here's Sean Hannity. Oh, here's whatever.
Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson right now, for whatever reason, I don't listen to him. I don't know what he says, but he is the top cable draw right now, and you know TV ratings right now to me may as well not exist because one, I don't watch a whole lot of live television, and two, there's so many streaming services out there. You know, you can if you come home, you're going to watch. You know, whatever, The Office or Seinfeld. You're not going to tune in to Big Bang Theory, whatever. Okay, right. So I don't know what that means when Tucker Carlson is the top cable draw anymore. But if it was a quote unquote free market for ads, okay, if this guy has the most viewers, and I'm Coca-Cola or Pepsi, and I want to throw some ads out there, I want to throw them during the Tucker Carlson segment because he's getting the most views.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put my billboard out there on the dirt road. I'm going to put it on I-75. Well, the top contributor to ads for like the past month, Tucker Carlson, is a fucking My Pillow guy. Okay? Because I guess whatever.
Wasn't he he was in the news like a year or two ago about like some like GoFundMe for the wall or something like that?
I think that may be him. I'm not up.
I may be wrong on that
No,
one.
yeah, and it may be. I'm not up on the My Pillow lore. Okay, but I think he's a Republican type fella, and but he was making up alone, and I'm going to get the figures wrong, but 28 to 38% of all ad revenue on Tucker Carlson's segment, because whatever line Tucker is pulling, whether it's his own or somebody else's or what, I don't know. These other guys are pulling off of there. So all you're seeing are My Pillow ads and buying and selling gold coins, or that's it. So there's, like you said, there's something else pulling the strings, or there's or these other companies are so beholden to whatever is going on right now regarding to quote unquote wokeness that they don't want to be associated with this viewpoint right now,
Right.
lest we hurt our bottom number.
I can say that my life has been changed completely by certain things that I've listened to, for the better. And certain things, everybody can relate to this. It's easy to put on a sad song whether you're sad, but if you have an artist that creates a sad sounding song and then educates you, in the middle of it, not only are they treating what you're needing, needing, like Joe, what you're needing, but then they also leave you with not just a distraction for the moment. They give you something to take from,
Yeah, to think about for later on.
And then I think once you hit that, then you've kind of breached what is music at all. Is it just something that's distracting? Kind of like if you go into TJ Maxx and you just can't seem to get out of there sometimes. At least I think a lot of people do this shit. But then you have this like monotonous music on in the background. It doesn't really mean much of anything.
No.
It's just keeping a pace for you. A distraction.
Something in the background to where you don't have to listen to the background in your own head.
Yes.
I listen to the background in my head. Maybe
I don't
for
think
better or worse.
I don't think I can get out of the background of my head. I have to do extreme stuff. I gotta like skateboard or go for a crazy hike or some shit to get out of that background.
It depends on what's going on in the background. You know what I mean? Because if it's like being like motivational and like hyping me up, then I'm gonna encourage that. I'm gonna be like, "You're right, brain. You are so right. This is the best idea that anybody's come up with. We'll follow that advice." That hardly ever happens, though.
I don't think you can have the best idea ever.
No.
Never,
That's just me being delusional.
Of course. It's actually something I've been kind of having a mantra about to myself. Because your mind can really take over, and that voice will just talk and talk and talk and talk nonstop. And sometimes it'll take you into like taking something that's really small and make such a big deal out of it in your mind. It's so much to where you almost believe that lie is real. Does that make sense? I think that's a lot of our mental health and emotional health kind of stems from. Racism also stems from there. Very some deep places that don't really ever get attention.
Do you think some of them are like programs of our ancestors?
1,000,000,000%. I actually call that DNA karma. That's how I was talking to someone and that just came out. I'm like, it's like DNA karma. And anything can be transferred down, especially emotional behavioral patterns.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like, for example, some people, if they're struggling with depression, right? A lot of people struggle with depression. And a lot of people don't understand why. It's just something that's happening inside of them. But I actually think that there's a huge thing that happens when you're born into a family or just born into the world those people that love you also have their own shit that they're going through, and they could pass those things down. And if those things never, ever, ever get thought about or gone into, then this cycle continues to repeat until the end of time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You have to be conscientious enough to fix a problem.
Yes.
And then
You have to be aware that the problem's there.
Yeah.
That's what going into the background is kind of about, like seeing it. And not just experiencing it, like watching it. But that mantra that I was going to say is like, no matter what my tiny mind, my tiny speck of mind creates, it is never, ever greater than what's real and true. And what's real and true is what's happening to you, you know, right there in that moment. And so sometimes, you know, like, I tattoo, and some people might tell me that I'm cocky, but I'm just like any other quote-unquote artist. I like rip everything that I do to pieces. And it'll really taint how you look at yourself. And once you have those doubts about your abilities, then that kind of affects your performance, you know, so that's not okay. But that perfection aspect that we striving for, that's also just a program, is... I feel like you know what I'm talking about. I can tell, like, your attention is
I'm picking up what you've been doing.
Yeah. We forget that just because it's being created in our mind, that it's not all the way real. And even perfection in art is just a myth.
When we were training, I was the point man. The point man is the first one in the door. And it's just... in the Marines, we call it a fucking a bullet sponge.
A bullet sponge?
Yeah.
What a PC friendly term.
So, I mean, alright, so imagine right now, right? So we're hanging out at this table, right? And somebody busts into your door and you...
Is that not... Before you tell your story, it sounds like something that like some like political pundit would use. Like, were they protesters? No, they were bullet sponges. That's all they were.
So, alright, so... let's put in a scenario that's kind of like... I don't know. Normalized today. Alright, so we're drug dealers, me and you.
Okay. What are we selling?
I don't know.
What do we want to get the kids hooked on? That's my primary goal. Is get all the kids addicted to our product. And then you start them young, they'll grow up as lifelong customers. Take it from big tobacco.
Alright, so me and you, I'd probably say we're Molly dealers.
Okay. Rave kids. I can speak their language.
Yeah, okay, yeah. We don't do coke. We're not
You know, I thought about joining the Base Nectar family, but...
We're not that fancy, right? Cole, calm down. So we're Molly dealers, right?
Gotcha.
We got our weapons. We're distributing our shit on the table. Like, yeah, there's a couple pills. Somebody busts through the door right now, and we got our guns right here. That first man's taking the shot. Because he's the first one through the door. We don't know. There's like 3-4 other people behind him. But that first man came through the door. And that's what a bullet sponge is.
Why the fuck would you find that appealing, you madman? That's...
adrenaline, bro.
Good lord, dude! Roller coasters, man, so much.
It's you only get certain high from a roller coaster. You know, like this shit fucking sucks. When you taste the better adrenaline, you hit a roller coaster. You're like, oh god, we're going down. Yay! Now we're going back up. Oh my god, I'm upside down. Fuck off.
Have you ever been stuck on one, a roller coaster?
No.
I have. It's a little scary.
I don't know.
I mean,
it's like,
no, let me be real. I'm not talking about fucking bullets flying by my head scary or anything like that. I'm just saying that, like, it's something that, like, I don't like. I like roller coasters.
I mean,
I don't like being stuck on one.
I'd find the comical situation and be like, well, guess we're gonna hang out here for a minute.
My dad told me to shut up.
Why you bitching?
Like, I started freaking out. He's like, shut up! He's like, stop that.
No, it's you'll never taste anything like that. Busting through a door and just a surprise. You don't know what you're coming into, you know? Because every house layout is different. You bust through the door and you're just like, left, right, corner, hallway, couch, like, kitchen. You don't know what you're getting. You're just knowing, like, I'm going in and I'm pieing this part of the corner. Dudes behind me, they know what they're doing. But you know what? Who's in here? What's in there? I don't know. We'll find out.